Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to another deep dive. It is awesome to have you with us today, whether you're tuning in during your commute, while you're at the gym, or maybe you're just settling in to learn something new. We are glad you're here. The era of the invisible jet might have just come to a crashing halt. Right now, China's YLC-8B radar is on the ground in Iran, and it's designed to strip the F-35 of its only defense, total invisibility. With a 700-kilometer reach, this isn't just a sensor, it's a strategic middle finger to Western air dominance. If the F-35 can be seen, it can be killed. Is the trillion-dollar stealth program officially obsolete? We're breaking down the tech the Pentagon doesn't want you to worry about. If you're into high-stakes intel, hit that like button, share this with your crew, and subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. But I want to hear from you. Is this a game changer for Iran, or is Chinese tech just overhyped? Is stealth dead, or just getting started? Don't hold back. Drop your take in the comments right now. I'm diving in to see who's right. Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay, but before we get carried away with the headlines, we really need to take a step back. Because frankly, we hear this stealth is dead narrative every single time a new piece of hardware rolls out of a factory in Nanjing or Moscow. Is this actually a paradigm shift, or is it just, another brochure promising the moon?
That's exactly the right place to start, because skepticism is healthy here. But this isn't just a brochure anymore. The transfer of the YLC-8B to Iran, it represents a tangible change in the physics of the battlefield in West Asia.
Right.
We aren't just talking about a tech upgrade. We are looking at the potential end of what they call unopposed access for Western air forces.
Unopposed access, that's military speak for we can go wherever we want, whenever we want, right?
Essentially, yes. It's the core assumption that the U.S. or Israel can operate in enemy airspace with relative impunity because they own the electromagnetic spectrum. This radar challenges that ownership.
So it changes the whole calculus.
It forces a complete reevaluation of the idea that you can just rely on surprise to survive.
Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts then, because I really want to understand why this specific system is so different. We've seen anti-stealth claims before. What is it about the YLC-8B that actually threatens a platform as advanced as, say, the F-35 or even the B-2 Spirit?
It all comes down to the wavelength. To really get why this radar is a threat, you have to understand how stealth actually works. I think most people think of it as like a Klingon cloaking device. You push a button and just disappear.
Right, you're just invisible.
But it's not. In reality, stealth is physics. It's about shaping the aircraft to deflect radar waves away from the source, and then using special materials to absorb whatever you can't deflect.
But that shaping, it's optimized for specific frequencies, isn't it?
Precisely. And that's the catch. The F-35, the B-2, they are primarily optimized to defeat high-frequency radar, the X-band and Ku-band.
Those are the targeting radars.
Exactly, the fire control radars. They have short wavelengths that give you the precision you need to guide a missile. The stealth shaping on those jets works incredibly well against them.
So against a standard targeting radar, the F-35 looks like a golf ball, a small bird.
Or nothing at all, in some cases. But the YLC-8B operates in the UHF-band. These are meter waves, very long, low-frequency waves.
Yeah.
And when a wave that long hits an aircraft, the stealth shaping doesn't work the same way. In fact, if the wavelength happens to match the physical dimensions of the aircraft structures, like a tail fin or the wingspan, you get a phenomenon called resonance.
Resonance, that sounds like the opposite of stealth.
It is. The aircraft structure itself effectively acts like an antenna. It starts vibrating electrically and re-radiates the signal. It's called Rayleigh scattering.
So instead of deflecting the wave, the plane just lights itself up.
It lights up like a Christmas tree. The YLC-8B is built specifically to exploit this very gap in the physics. It's designed to hunt the things that are supposed to be invisible to everyone else.
Okay, but hold on. If UHF radar is the kryptonite to stealth, why haven't we been using it for the last 40 years? I mean, the British used basic low-frequency radar in World War II. Why is this suddenly a new threat?
That is the crucial nuance. We have had UHF radars for decades. The problem was always resolution.
The picture was too blurry.
Exactly. Historically, a UHF radar could tell you there's something big in the sky about 100 miles that way, but the pixel size of that radar image was huge. It was a giant blurry blob. You couldn't tell if it was one plane or two, and you certainly couldn't lock a missile onto it.
So it was a searchlight, not a sniper scope.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
But the Chinese, specifically the Nanjing Research Institute of Electronics Technology, have been pouring money and a lot of brain power into signal processing. The YLC-8B isn't just a big antenna, it's a supercomputer.
Wow.
It uses fully coherent digital pulse compression and very advanced algorithms to sharpen that blurry image. It creates a much, much tighter track than the old Soviet systems ever could.
Okay, let's talk numbers. The intro mentioned a 700-kilometer range. That implies they're scanning well outside of Iranian borders.
Yeah, that range is likely for large strategic targets. Think ballistic missiles or the B-2 Spirit bomber. If you're flying a B-2, which has a larger physical cross-section for those long waves to resonate against, you could be detected while you're still over a neighboring country.
And for the smaller jets, the F-35s.
The last updates suggest effective detection around 350 kilometers for tactical stealth fighters, and that is significant. If you're an F-35 pilot, your entire doctrine relies on detecting the enemy before they detect you.
The first look, first shot advantage.
Right. And if the YLC-8B sees you at 350 kilometers, that advantage just evaporated.
But let's go back to that blurry blob issue you mentioned. Even if this new radar is smarter, can it actually guide a missile? Because detection isn't the same as destruction. If the YLC-8B sees an F-35, can it command a missile to hit it?
On its own, no. And this is really where the stealth is dead. Headlines get a little bit misleading. The YLC-8B is a surveillance and cueing radar. It cannot provide the weapons-grade lock needed for the final seconds of a missile interception.
The physics just don't work.
The physics of UHF just won't allow for that kind of precision.
So the F-35 is safe then?
No, the F-35 is in a trap. See, the YLC-8B is part of a kill chain. It integrates with other systems like the Russian-made S-300 PMU-2 or Iran's own Bavar 373.
So it works in a team.
It's the spotter. Here's the nightmare scenario for a pilot. The YLC-8B detects the F-35 at 300 kilometers. It tracks the approach. It tells the fire control radars, the ones that can guide a missile, exactly where to look.
So it's cueing the sniper.
It's narrowing the sky. Instead of those fire control radars scanning 360 degrees and blasting energy everywhere, which makes them huge targets for anti-radiation missiles, they just stay silent. They stay dark.
Waiting.
They wait until the YLC-8B says, target is at bearing 250, elevation 30,000 feet. Then and only then do they turn on.
They flash on, get the lock because they know exactly where to look, fire, and then shut right back down.
Precisely. It forces the stealth aircraft to deal with a high-power burn-through at close range. And at that point, your stealth coding might not be enough to save you. The YLC-8B denies you the ability to sneak into the room in the first place.
That just fundamentally changes how an air campaign has to be planned. You can't just slip in through the back door anymore. But let's look at the operational side of this. A radar this powerful? It has to be massive, right? And in modern warfare, if you're big and stationary, you're dead. That's right. We've seen that in so many recent conflicts. If you transmit, you get hit. Is this thing just a giant target waiting for a cruise missile?
That's the other major advancement here. In the old days, strategic radars were basically buildings, concrete installations. The YLC-8B is fully mobile.
Really?
Yes. It has a foldable antenna array, a modular design. The latest updates indicate a small crew can deploy this thing or pack it up and move in less than 30 minutes.
30 minutes. For a strategic radar, that's faster than some artillery units can move.
It is incredibly fast for this class of sensor. This is the shoot and scoot doctrine, but applied to surveillance.
And why does that matter so much?
It matters because of the targeting cycle. If the US or Israel uses satellite imagery to plan a strike, that imagery is hours, maybe even days old. If they program a missile to hit the coordinates where the radar was yesterday, they're just going to make a new crater in the desert.
Because the radar's already gone.
The radar has already moved, so you have to hunt it in real time. And while you're hunting it, it is hunting you. It complicates the SEAD mission suppression of enemy air defenses exponentially.
You can't just use a pre-planned list of targets anymore.
No. You have to send aircraft into the danger zone to find the radar, and the moment they enter that zone, the radar sees them.
It sounds like a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, where the mouse has suddenly gotten a lot bigger and a lot faster. So what's the counter move here? I have to assume the Pentagon isn't just shrugging their shoulders and selling the F-35 for scrap. How do Western air forces adapt?
Well, the doctrine of, let's call it, indiscriminate attack is over. You can't just send 2 jets to bomb a facility anymore. The cost of conflict just goes through the roof.
So future missions need massive support packages.
Huge packages. You need electronic warfare aircraft, like the EA-18G Growler, to blast noise on the UHF frequencies to try and blind the YLC-8B. You need standoff munitions so you don't have to fly as close. You need decoys, drones that look like fighters to confuse the system.
So the airspace just becomes a mess of noise and fake targets.
Right. It forces a transparent battlefield. The U.S. can still strike, but they can't do it quietly, and they certainly can't do it cheaply. Every mission becomes a major logistical operation. And there's a cyber element, too. If you can't blow up the radar because it keeps moving, maybe you try to hack the network it's connected to.
It shifts the battle from pure aerodynamics to electronic and cyber warfare, which, brings us to the elephant in the room, the supplier. This is Chinese tech. Why is Beijing handing over this level of capability to Iran? This isn't just selling rifles. This is high-end strategic kit.
It is, and you have to view this through the lens of that 2021 strategic partnership between China and Iran. It's a 25-year roadmap. On the surface, it's about economics. It's always about oil. China imports a massive amount of its energy. Something like 90% of Iran's oil exports head to China. Beijing needs to ensure that its gas station is secure.
So by giving Iran this tech,
By giving Iran the ability to deny air superiority to the West, China's protecting its energy supply without having to station its own troops there. It's an insurance policy.
that makes sense. But is there more to it? It feels like there's a testing element here.
Oh, absolutely. This is the real-world lab. China has these radars protecting its own coast, obviously. But the Taiwan Strait is, fortunately, still a cold environment. By deploying the YLC-8B to Iran, China gets to see how its hardware performs against actual Western platforms in a very tense, very real environment.
They're gathering telemetry data.
Exactly. Every time an Israeli F-35 Ayadir flies a patrol or a U.S. drone loiters near the Persian Gulf, that radar is collecting data. It's learning the signature of these aircraft. And that data, it almost certainly goes back to Nanjing to refine their algorithms.
So they're using West Asia to train their AI for a potential conflict in the Pacific.
That's the strategic play.
Yeah.
It's brilliant if you're them and pretty terrifying if you're in the Pentagon. It's asymmetric warfare at its finest. They create a huge headache for the U.S. on the other side of the world, all while improving their own defenses at home.
And for Iran, it's about plugging the gaps in their own system.
Absolutely. The recent news, those 12-day conflict scenarios that were reported, they showed that Iran's air defenses look porous. They relied on older systems that were easily jammed. This transfer is a rapid modernization. It's about restoring deterrence. They want the Israelis and the Americans to look at the map and say, you know what? The risk just isn't worth it today.
That is the nature of asymmetric technology.
Yeah.
You don't have to build your own F-35. You just have to find a way to negate their single greatest advantage. The YLC-8B doesn't shoot anything down itself. But by stripping away that cloak of invisibility, it changes the entire calculus of war. It can make the cost of attacking just too high.
Okay, let's bring it all home. We've covered the physics, the kill chain integration, the shoot and scoop mobility, and the heavy geopolitics behind this. What's the big takeaway for everyone listening?
The main takeaway is that this radar represents a strategic pivot point. It forces the West to completely rethink how it projects air power in the Middle East. You can no longer just assume that you're invisible. That era, it might be closing.
And that leads us to the big question I want to leave everyone with.
Right. This raises an incredibly important question for the future of warfare. We have spent decades and trillions of dollars focusing on stealth on the cloak. But if defensive technology, like this leap in UHF radar processing, is now evolving faster than stealth technology, are we witnessing the end of the invisible era of warfare entirely?
That's the big one.
It is. And if we are, what does that mean for the trillions we've spent on fifth-generation aircraft? If the shield is becoming stronger than the cloak, the entire strategy of modern air power might have to be rewritten. We might see a return to speed or altitude or just sheer numbers instead of sneaking around in the dark.
That is a heavy thought to end on. Trillions of dollars, potentially outpaced by a radar on a truck.
It's just a reminder that technology never stands still. There's really no such thing as an invulnerable weapon.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for breaking all of that down. That was intense, but I feel like I actually understand the stakes now. It's not just a new gadget. It really is a new game.
My pleasure. It's a complex situation, and it's only going to get more interesting from here.
And a huge thank you to everyone listening or watching. We hope this deep dive gave you a clearer picture of what's actually happening on the ground and in the air in West Asia. If you enjoyed this, definitely check out our other deep dives into global security technology. We've got some great ones on hypersonic missiles and cyber warfare that tie right into this conversation. Until next time, stay curious.